Hello, and welcome to the PT Success Guide podcast. This is your host, Sheba. My goal in this podcast is really to bring to you my 15 plus years of experience in the fitness industry from various countries and help you really learn how to become a personal trainer, but also really figure out how to make money and find success in this industry. Today, I actually want to talk about why a lot of personal trainers have failed in my observation. Another way I think I would phrase this is why there is such a huge turnover in this industry. One of the most interesting things that I think more people need to realize is that there is a huge shift between the reality and the expectations of this field as a personal trainer. And I think the personal trainers who come into the job with expectations which are not really connected to what the reality of the job is, they often get frustrated and tend to leave their position. Let me explain. So I have seen multiple times guys who were working out in the gym. They were always there. They were bodybuilders, maybe they were bros. Some of them really liked lifting heavy. They would fist bump and they really liked the environment. And so anytime I'd talk to them, they would say, "Yo, it's so cool. You get to be here all the time. I'd love to work here." And often one of them would end up applying and get accepted, and they would get the job and start working as a personal trainer in the gym. Now, what would happen is when you work as a personal trainer in a gym, people are not really going to fist bump you as much when you're walking around in uniform. They're not really, as concerned about what you're lifting or anything like that. You have to start doing work. You have to prospect for clients. You have to talk to people. You have to do a lot of training. You got to do a lot of marketing. You have to put in a lot of work to get your business rolling. The thing is that this part of the job is not paid. All this work that you do, all this legwork you're doing on your own to build your business is often not paid for by the gym. Now the rules have changed and gyms do provide you with some kind of basic cost, like they pay you a basic wage, where it's, your minimum wage or whatever that you get paid for the first 2 or 3 weeks for a certain amount of hours, to do prospecting to build your business. But this is something that you have to do consistently throughout your career, and people are not willing to do that. All of a sudden, these guys who love being in the gym and they just wanted to make money to hang out in the gym are realizing that to make money, to be in the gym, you have to actually train people. The only time you make money in a gym is when you are working with a client one-on-one. This means if you only have 4 clients in a day, but you're spending 12 hours in the gym, you're only making 4 hours worth of money. So this disappointment in what it actually takes to become a trainer versus what they think they can do and how much money they can make as a trainer leads to a lot of frustration, and I see people just leave. And often they leave so fast that the 1 or 2 clients they may have gained in the time they were in the gym, they show up the next day and the trainer is nowhere to be found. And so this also creates a really negative image of personal trainers, and this affects the rest of us who do stay in the industry and who do want to do the work to stay in the job. The other thing too is that some people look at personal training as a gateway career. They don't look at this as a full-time, lifelong commitment. They think of it as a job that will help them get another job. Some of the examples of this would be, becoming a coach in a specific sport, becoming a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, a massage therapist, any kind of clinician, practitioner, osteopath. And so it's like people who have a very clinical interest in movement, movement science, rehabilitation, they come into training with that kind of mindset. And they train everyone, with that critical eye because they think they are already in that role. And ultimately, they just want to use it as a stepping stone to kind of learn and practice more of what they know about the body and then ultimately take it into clinical practice. The thing here is, too, the people who come into that with that mindset where, I'm ultimately going to be a physiotherapist, they almost look at personal training as a job that's somehow less than being a clinician. It's somehow not as good as being a chiropractor. And so that kind of mindset can get in their way and create a bit of arrogance and attitude in the job. But again, when they're coming into the job with the mindset of, well, I'm only doing this temporarily until I can become a football coach or until I can train Olympic athletes, they're not as committed to doing the job. They're not as willing to do the work. And that also leads to an empty roster of clients. It leads to not making enough money. And again, they end up leaving to work maybe in a clinical setting as an assistant or, end up going to school full time. Then we have the people who are willing to do the work. They do want to stay in the job full time, but they lack the skills to market. They lack the confidence or willingness to do the prospecting, to do the footwork to get the clients. This can be a big problem because that is a very big part of the job. Whether you are working for a gym that will give you the clients, whether you are setting up your own business, it doesn't matter. You will always need to do your own prospecting to keep your roster full. And I have been in the job now for a very long time, and I still prospect. Obviously, the way I prospect now is very different to the way I prospected when I first began. My personality has changed, my experience has changed, all of that has changed. So the variables have altered the way I do, look for new clients and try and get more business. And I would say it's relatively easier for me now because I have built a lot of resilience in this aspect. But for newer clients who are just really passionate about, for newer trainers who are really passionate about training people, but they're not necessarily salespeople, they tend to falter because they don't know what to do. The really good thing about this is that this is a skill that can be acquired through a lot of practice. You have to overcome these barriers that alter your confidence in approaching people, in starting a conversation, in talking to people, because that is really all you're doing when you're prospecting, and that can really help you out. So you have to just kind of step outside of your comfort zone, and that will really alter your business for you. And it takes time, but be patient in it if this is something that really is important to you and a job you really want to do. Finally, I think for the trainers who are able to prospect, who are able to get people to come in to do an assessment so they can do a price presentation, who are really passionate about training or who want to be trainers, but they lack the ability to listen. And where this affects your career and your longevity is that whether it is when you're doing the assessment or when you are training your client, if you are not paying attention and truly listening to who they are as people, what their goals are, what they're aspiring to achieve physically in training, and you either set out to train every person the same way, or you set out to train every person the way you work out, mindlessly not being aware of whether or not that's in line with their goals, people are going to start feeling that. They're going to start feeling like my trainer's not paying attention to me. They are not being accountable to my goals. They are not personalizing the training to what I said I want to do. I told the trainer I don't want to do high intensity and they're making me do burpees. Maybe that person's body type, injuries are not built for that style of training. You have to customize training and you have to be able to adapt that training regularly to fit the client. Let's say you have a client who wants to lift heavy and you have them on a great program, you're doing a simple, maybe linear progression or something. Somewhere in the middle of the program, they hurt their back at work. Maybe they go for a volleyball tournament with friends, they go skiing, they injure themselves. And you do not realize or recognize that you need to alter their training because of said injury, and you continue to push them, and that does more harm. You have sort of failed in providing them with a service that was best suited to them based on their needs at that time. This is a very simple example. Another basic example is if you sit down with a prospective client the first time and you don't even ask them, what are your health and fitness goals? What would you like to achieve? Do you have a timeline within which you would like to achieve these goals? And you're failing to kind of even note down mentally or physically what these person's goals are, you already don't even know how to train them. And so when people talk to each other, they go home and they're like, I don't know, I feel like my trainer is just kind of not really paying attention to me. And I have had clients like that. I always ask people, have you had a trainer in the past? Was that experience good or bad? And there are people who are like, I went to this gym, I wanted to gain weight, but my trainer was making me push a sled and do boxing, and I wound up losing even more weight. I felt like I really wasn't achieving the goals I wanted, and so I left. And so that can be really disheartening for the person, but then ultimately this can also speak poorly for you in your business and in your trade. Okay? Now, if you need, there are way more resources if you go onto my YouTube channel, which is XShibaX, and then just go into the PT Success Guide playlist. You can come join me on Instagram, TikTok. I do have a bit of a sinus congestion, which is why I sound like this today. However, I did want to get this out for you guys. If you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me on any or all of the social media platforms that I'm on. I also have an Instagram handle, which is PT Success Guide, but also XShibaX across the platforms, okay? So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this helps you gain a little bit more insight into the industry, and hopefully I'm able to help one of you get a little bit closer to finding success in the health and fitness industry. Until next time, think strong always, and I'll talk to you again very soon. Bye.